On October 11, 1969, just 2 weeks after the Lake Berryessa attack, the Zodiac broke his pattern. At approximately 9:30 p.m., he entered a cab driven by Paul Stein. He requested to be taken to Washington and Maple Street in Presidio Heights. For reasons unknown, perhaps at the passenger's instruction, the cab driver drove 1 block past their destination. The Zodiac waited for the car to come to a complete stop by the side of the road before grabbing Paul Stein's collar and shooting him point blank in the right side of the skull. The Zodiac then exited the vehicle from the rear, only to re-enter through the passenger side door. While sitting in the front seat, he calmly took the cab driver's wallet and tore off a piece of his blood-soaked shirt before exiting the vehicle once again. While this horror unfolded, 2 teenagers living across the street witnessed the cab from their second-floor window and immediately called the police. But in the crucial moments as the teenagers relayed their description to the police, a fatal error occurred. The Zodiac was mistakenly described as a black male. This single mistake proved to be catastrophically detrimental, allowing the Zodiac to slip through the net once more. In the dead of night, a police patrol unit arrived on the scene and observed a man described as lumbering along in the fog. This individual was later determined to have most likely been the Zodiac. However, because the description they had received was of a black male, the police didn't stop him. Instead, they merely asked if he had seen anything unusual in the area. The man calmly responded that he had seen someone waving a gun around a couple blocks to the east. The patrol unit, following this false lead, sped off in that direction. Had they stopped him, had they come any closer, they would have seen the damning evidence. The man's jacket was drenched in Paul Stein's blood. Despite this near miss, police did find crucial evidence in the cab. A partial fingerprint, confirmed to be the Zodiac's, found in blood. And after the initial mistake was corrected, the teenagers worked with a police sketch artist to create the first preliminary sketch of the Zodiac, which was then circulated to every cab company in the area. Another failed attempt to catch the killer. The Zodiac, reveling in his perceived untouchability, saw this as a perfect opportunity to further taunt law enforcement. On October 14th, just 3 days after the murder, the Chronicle received another letter from the Zodiac. This one was different. It included a piece of Paul Stein's blood-soaked shirt. It read, "This is the Zodiac speaking. I am the murderer of the taxi driver over by Washington Street and Maple Street last night. To prove this, here is a blood-stained piece of his shirt. I am the same man who did in the people in the North Bay area. The SF police could have caught me last night if they had searched the park properly instead of holding road races with their motorcycles seeing who can make the most noise." The letter continued, ridiculing the SFPD before ending with a chilling, unforgettable threat. "School children make nice targets. I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning. Just shoot out the front tire and then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out." The Chronicle, at the request of authorities, initially excluded the school bus threat from their next edition. However, despite this attempt to prevent panic, the threat was leaked and released to the public just 2 days later. Panic swept through the Napa Valley Unified School District. School bus drivers were given a set of harrowing instructions. Continue driving with a flat tire. Do not stop. Tell the children to get below the windows and lie on the floor. The driver will continue driving and turn on all lights while sounding his horn. The bus driver should not stop until he has arrived in a well-populated area. Upon arrival at this location, a local law enforcement agency should be notified immediately. Despite the Zodiac's chilling claim, no such attack ever occurred. Later, working with the officers who had mistakenly let the Zodiac walk free, a second, more accurate sketch of the man was produced, depicting him as older with a thicker jaw. This new sketch replaced the original and was widely circulated. With his letters in full swing and the San Francisco area gripped by fear, the Zodiac made a move that shocked the entire country. On October 22nd, He called the Oakland Police Department and demanded to speak with Melvin Belly, a prominent lawyer. He wanted Belly to appear on a TV talk show so the Zodiac could call in and speak with him live on air. The show was Channel 7's talk show, usually starting at 7 a.m., but brought forward by half an hour for this unprecedented event. After 40 anxious minutes of waiting, the phone finally rang but immediately hung up. The next call came in at 7:20 a.m. This time the caller stayed on the line longer. When asked if he had any other name besides Zodiac, the man simply said, Sam.
Why don't we just ask Sam to tell us a little bit more about what he's feeling right now? Tell us about your feelings, Sam. Just tell us anything you want to.
And then we'll come back and I'll give you a specific answer to this question, are you going to the gas chamber? Stay with us so I can answer that for you. But will you attend on Jim just a minute and tell him what you're feeling or talk to us?
Just tell us what's going on inside you right now, Sam, please.
I have headache.
All right.
How long have you had those headaches, Sam? In a long time?
Since I killed a kid.
If it all boils down to the question of you're giving yourself up, if you could be assured that you wouldn't get capital punishment for myself.
I don't want to give myself up. I want to kill those kids.
The Zodiac called the show a total of 35 times, though only 12 were broadcast. Doubts lingered. Was this truly the Zodiac? To confirm, the only 3 people who had ever heard the Zodiac's actual voice, Nancy Slover, the telephone operator who took his initial calls, David Slate, the police officer who had encountered him after the cab murder, and Brian Hartnell, the survivor of the Lake Berryessa stabbing, were brought in. All agreed. The voice on the calls was much deeper and older than the voice they had heard. Further investigation revealed the calls were made from the Napa State Hospital by a mental patient, definitively proving the caller was not the Zodiac. In the following weeks, the Zodiac sent 2 more letters boasting of 2 more murders, though these remained unconfirmed. The first letter included a card that read, "Sorry I haven't written, but I just washed my pen." Inside, it continued, "This is the Zodiac speaking. I thought you would need a good laugh before you hear the bad news. You won't get the news for a while yet, P.S. Could you print this new cipher in your front page? I get awfully lonely when I'm ignored, so lonely I could do my thing." This letter contained another cipher, a challenge designed to be far more difficult than the last, which had been cracked in a day. This was the Z340 cipher. This cipher remained unsolved for over 50 years until just a few years ago. An international group of 3 amateur code breakers utilizing advanced computer software finally cracked it. The Z340 required letter substitutions, diagonal reading, rearrangements, and even skipping certain words. Its complexity explains why it remained a mystery for so long. Once decoded, it read, "I hope you were having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show, which brings up a good point about me. I'm not afraid of the gas chamber." The letter continued, reiterating his belief that his slaves would work for him in the afterlife, a theme from his first letter. While the Z340 didn't reveal his identity, it confirmed he wasn't the caller to Melvin Belly's show, and that he was, in fact, watching the coverage of his own reign of terror. The second letter the Zodiac sent in 1969 was equally disturbing. It read, "This is the Zodiac speaking. Up until the end of October, I have killed 7 people. I have grown rather angry with the police for their telling lies about me, so I shall change the way of collecting my slaves. I shall no longer announce to anyone when I commit my murders. They shall look like routine robberies, killings of anger, a few fake accidents, etc. The police shall never catch me because I have been too clever for them." The letter went on to correct police errors, stating that the circulated sketch was accurate, but that he often looked entirely different. He also claimed he left no fingerprints and had been planting fake clues to keep the cops happy. He then recounted his near miss with police after the cab murder. "P.S. 2 cops pulled a goof about 3 minutes after I left the cab. I was walking down the hill to the park when this cop car pulled up, and one of them called me over and asked me if I saw anyone acting suspicious or strange in the last 5 to 10 minutes, and I said, yes, there was a man waving a gun, and the cops peeled rubber and went around the corner. After recapping his police encounter, the Zodiac provided step-by-step instructions on how to create a bomb using household items. But the following sentence caught investigators' attention. What you do not know is whether the death machine is at the site or whether it is being stored in my basement for future use. If the Zodiac was telling the truth about having a basement, it drastically narrowed the list of possible locations for his residence. First, it meant he lived in a house, not an apartment. Second, basements are uncommon in the Bay Area, suggesting either he lived outside the area or he had made a potentially fatal error by revealing this detail. On March 22, 1970, Kathleen Johns was driving on Highway 132, a rarely used road, on her way to visit her sick mother in Petaluma, her 10-month-old baby in tow. In the near midnight darkness, a car began following her. Kathleen wisely slowed down to let it pass, but before she could, the car began honking and blinking its lights. Knowing the dangers of pulling over on a deserted road with a stranger behind her, she kept driving. The car behind her accelerated, pulling into the lane beside her. From his passenger side window, a man shouted that Kathleen's rear tire was wobbling. Still skeptical, Kathleen waited until she reached the freeway to pull over. The man pulled over behind her, reiterated that her tire was wobbling, and offered to fix it, claiming he had the necessary tools. Kathleen, desperate, agreed. The man retrieved his tools and tightened the lugs on her vehicle. Once he finished, he notified Kathleen and returned to his car. After merging back onto the freeway and driving for a few seconds, Kathleen's entire rear tire spun off. She attempted to pull over again when the same man returned. Seeing her tire completely detached, the man offered to take her to the nearest gas station. Kathleen, feeling she had no other choice, agreed. They started driving down the freeway, but to Kathleen's growing alarm, he completely bypassed the gas station, then several more exits. At this point, Kathleen knew something was terribly wrong, but dared not speak. The man drove her down various rocky, deserted roads before breaking the silence, uttering words that filled her with terror. In the panic, her only option was to jump. The next time the man pulled up to a stop sign, she executed her desperate plan, escaping the car and rolling into a ditch. After the Zodiac had tried and failed to find her in the ditch, Kathleen waited on the side of the road until a female driver saw her and offered to take her to a police station. There, she recounted her harrowing ordeal to a police officer. When shown a police sketch of the Zodiac, Kathleen strongly believed he was her abductor. Police units returned to retrieve Kathleen's car, only to find it engulfed in flames, most likely set by the Zodiac to destroy any incriminating evidence. About a month later, on April 19, 1970, the Zodiac sent another letter and cipher. The letter read, "This is the Zodiac speaking. By the way, have you cracked the last cipher I sent you? My name is," followed by a 13-character cipher which, when decoded, is supposed to contain the Zodiac's name. But because it's only 13 characters long, it's nearly unsolvable. Thousands of possible solutions exist, with no way to confirm any of them. The letter continued with the Zodiac claiming he had killed 10 people to date and would have killed more, except his planned bomb was a dud. The second page showed a diagram of his new and improved bomb. Of course, the newspaper and authorities suppressed any mention of a bomb threat to prevent public panic. For the next 4 years, approximately 8 more Zodiac letters were sent to the Chronicle, largely containing the same pleas for attention and boastful claims. One more cipher was sent, which, when deciphered, purportedly contained the location of a bomb set to detonate in the fall of 1970. No bomb was ever found or detonated. In one of these later letters, the Zodiac claimed responsibility for Kathleen Johns' abduction, confessing that he lit her car on fire after failing to kill her. His final confirmed letter was sent on January 30th, 1974, seemingly reviewing the movie The Exorcist before once again demanding publicity. At the end, the Zodiac's final tally was boldly written, Me 37, SFPD 0. Police had only confirmed 5 murders and 2 attempted murders from the Zodiac, so his claim of 37 could very well be an exaggeration. However, he had previously stated in a letter that he would no longer announce his murders and would make them appear as accidents, meaning the final murder count could technically range anywhere from 5 to 37.